Look like Caitlin Clark's name is coming up in all of this unrivaled ratings disaster, and ESPN finally told the truth about it all, man. Caitlin Clark minding her own business, going to Nike headquarters, shooting from anywhere from the steps, and I just got to be honest with you, man. To me, I don't think Caitlin give two flying about Unrivaled, bro. I just gotta be honest. Now, there's people in the media trying to say that Unrivaled is failing due to Caitlin. No, they're failing because the product is bad.
Caitlin Clark just had one of those weeks where her name shows up in every corner of sports, not just WNBA, everywhere. One headline says her off-season move is starting to surface. Another asks the same question fans keep arguing about. Is she playing in Unrivaled or not? But the biggest fire this week is not even about a game. It's the WNBA deadline talk. Because once the internet smells deadline ignored, the story changes. It stops feeling like business and starts feeling like a fight. And in sports fights, there is always one person who becomes the symbol.
See, people can say what they want. Caitlin Clark is simply the driving force behind a lot of the WNBA recent success, and it looked like ESPN has completely admitted it. Now, that's a reality check of a lifetime, dog. I just got to keep it real. Now, with that being said, man, I want to share something here with you guys.
Therefore, the league's biggest week turns into the same conversation. What happens if the WNBA enters chaos, with Caitlin Clark at the center of it? And here's the wild part. In the same week, people are throwing around words like lockout, crisis, and leverage. Caitlin is also trending for talking about LeBron, reacting to an NBA player's breakout, and even popping up in NFL news.
LeBron never messaged me directly, but it's been cool to just see his support of myself and the W overall. You can tell he really watches and turns it on, and yeah, he's been kind of a big fan of myself from college and now in the W. So, I mean, he's the greatest basketball player of all time. So I think that's pretty cool. I don't want to compare myself to anybody else. I don't like that.
Yeah. It's a difficult thing to conjure.
Yeah. But I don't know. I hate saying this because LeBron is the greatest basketball player of all time. But obviously, he didn't even go to college, and he had all these expectations coming out of high school to be the greatest player ever. And obviously, that's a lot. That's a lot to take on your shoulders and a lot for the NBA at the time.
That is not normal. That is what it looks like when one athlete becomes the main character of the entire sports cycle. Let's start with the thing everyone keeps circling, the offseason. This week, multiple outlets push the same theme in different ways. Caitlin Clark's next move is becoming a story by itself. Even when nothing is official, the rumors do what rumors always do. They create teams in people's heads. One side says she should protect her body, rest, and come back even sharper. The other side says if she plays, she breaks the internet again. Therefore, the unrivaled question won't die. Is she in or is she out? And notice how strange that is.
Now, I told y'all last year that Unrivaled was on a needle and a thread contract because that means that they kind of on borrowed time. If this thing don't work, guess what they're going to do? They're going to ball it up and can it. And that's exactly possibly what's about to go down with Unrivaled, bro. I haven't watched any of it. I'm going to keep it 100 with you. I ain't going to get on here and lie. And I know many of you guys probably have not watched it either, but it's quite funny hearing all of the bad stories coming out about the show. Then people had the nerve to get mad that Caitlin Clark didn't do it. Caitlin Clark didn't want to associate herself with this buffoonery, with this dumpster fire. Y'all really think Caitlin Clark wanted to be a part of that? Her brand is too big and too special to be a part of this damn circus. It's bad enough she got to play in the WNBA, Ribleys, and I'm here to tell you, she definitely didn't want to take on this goddamn me circus.
Most WNBA players can have a quiet offseason. Caitlin can't. Because her offseason isn't treated like downtime. It's treated like a national decision. But Unrivaled isn't just about fitness or basketball. It's about power. If Caitlin joins, it validates the league. If she doesn't, people treat it like a rejection. That's why even a simple maybe becomes a full week of headlines. And this is where it gets even more interesting. You also had a headline about Kate Martin basically pitching the idea of getting Caitlyn to Unrivaled. That matters because it shows something real. Caitlyn isn't being chased like a normal star. She's being recruited like a franchise. Now let's talk about the week's most explosive angle, the WNBA deadline talk. This is the one that turns everything into gasoline. Because when a deadline is mentioned, fans don't hear negotiation, they hear war. And once the word lockout shows up near Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, the story becomes bigger than basketball. It becomes fear. Fear of lost games. Fear of lost momentum. Fear that the league finally has attention and will fumble it. But here's what really makes this angle viral. Caitlyn's name becomes leverage for both sides. Fans will say, "You can't waste the Clark era." Players will say, "You can't profit off this era without paying fairly." Owners will say, "We have to make the numbers work." Therefore, Caitlyn ends up in the middle, even if she never says a word. And that leads into the most dramatic headline of the week. The one basically saying fans are debating if Caitlyn will accidentally destroy the WNBA. That's an insane phrase, but it reveals something true about the moment. People don't know how to handle a superstar this big inside a league that is still building its structure, so they turn it into extremes. She's saving the league. She's exposing the league. She's bigger than the league. The league can't control the wave. But the real point is simpler. Caitlyn is forcing pressure onto everything that used to hide in the shadows. Scheduling, officiating, marketing, pay, media narratives. That's why every argument feels personal now. Because when the money grows, the stakes grow. And when the stakes grow, everybody fights harder to control the story. Now here's the part that makes this week feel surreal. While all of that WNBA chaos is happening, Caitlyn also trended for stepping into the NBA's favorite fight, the GOAT debate. One headline pushed the idea that she ended the GOAT debate by saying LeBron is the best ever. Whether you agree or not, it's a perfect example of the Clark effect. A WNBA player says a sentence, and it becomes an internet war. Because Caitlyn isn't just watched by WNBA fans, she's watched by NBA fans. She's watched by sports media. She's watched by people who don't even watch women's basketball, but still react to her, like she's part of the main NBA conversation. Therefore, her opinion doesn't land like a normal opinion. It lands like a headline, and the crossover didn't stop there. Another story had Caitlyn showing up in NFL news, with mentions tied to George Kittle's injury situation. Again, it's not just nice message content, it's proof of cultural reach. When Caitlyn is part of the same news cycle as the NFL, it means she's not being treated like a niche star. She's being treated like a top-tier American sports figure. But the sneakiest story this week is the one that sounds small. Caitlyn reacting to an NBA player's breakout stretch. That seems harmless, but it's actually another example of how the media uses her. Because Caitlyn reacting is content now. Her 2 words can become a story. That's the reality of celebrity-level attention. The reaction becomes the product. And finally, you had the pay gap headline. Women shut out again from the list of top 100 highest paid athletes. That story always hits harder when Caitlyn is in the conversation, because she's the easiest example of how big women's sports can get, and how far the money still has to go. Therefore, this week wasn't just random news. It was one clear message. The sport is growing, but the system is stressed. Put all of this together and you get the real headline of the week. Caitlin Clark has become the pressure test for the entire league. If the WNBA handles this era well, it becomes the next major sports machine. But if the league misplays the moment, the anger won't be quiet. Because the attention is too big now. The off-season rumors show how every move becomes a national event. The unrivaled talk shows how her presence can validate or crush a project. The deadline and lockout language shows how fragile the business side still feels. The destroy the WNBA debate shows how people sense the league isn't fully built for a superstar this massive. And the NBA and NFL crossover shows something even bigger. Caitlyn is not fighting for relevance anymore. The league is fighting to keep up with her relevance. Therefore, next week is going to be even louder. Because deadlines don't fade away, they collide. And when they collide, Caitlin Clark's name is going to be the first thing everyone tries to use. If you're still watching, drop Weekly Clark in the comments.
Wait a minute. Let me make sure I'm understanding this correctly. The mainstream media, the proud defenders of the unprofitable business of women's basketball, the mainstream media who has spent years trying to convince us that women's basketball is must-see TV instead of what it actually is, which is get off my TV. You mean to tell me the media is publicly admitting that Unrivaled is struggling? The media is insinuating that Unrivaled is on the brink of extinction?
You clicked because you saw this. 65% lost. And if Unrivaled really shed that much of its audience in 1 year, it changes everything about the WNBA contract fight. Because when the audience disappears, the leverage disappears with it.
I've been telling you guys there is no interest in pretend basketball. I have been telling you guys for years, as the mainstream media has intentionally lied to us. These elite athletes are amazing! This is the best basketball in the world! Woohoo! Yes!
So let me show you the numbers people are reacting to. Why players suddenly sound a lot more open to the old deal, and what happens next if this keeps sliding.
It's only a matter of time, dog. It was only a matter of time before the big dog started speaking. Now, I told y'all last year that Unrivaled was on a needle and a thread contract because that means that they kind of on borrowed time. If this thing don't work, guess what they're going to do? They're going to ball it up and can it. And that's exactly possibly what's about to go down with Unrivaled, bruh.
Now let's talk numbers, because numbers cut through the noise. The reported figure making the rounds is that Unrivaled Season 2 opened around 107,000 viewers on national TV. Last year's opener was reported around 313,000.
He averaged 221,000 viewers, and then across the regular season, peaking at 377,000 viewers. The one-on-one tournament, the opening night last season averaged 312,000 viewers. Guys, that was simply because it was a new thing and everybody wanted to watch the new thing, just like I looked at it last year. Now, the WNBA's 29th season averaged nearly 1 million viewers per game, which that is going to drop too. That is going to drop, bro.
You don't need to be a ratings expert to feel the punch. That's not a dip. That's the kind of drop that makes networks, sponsors, and investors start asking hard questions.
We have been talking about this here on the channel for years. The so-called growth in women's basketball is an illusion. For starters, it's easy to show growth when you're growing from nothing to almost nothing.
And before anyone says ratings vary, yes, they do. Time slots matter, competition matters, lead-ins matter. But here's the point. If something is truly exploding, it should be harder to knock it down. Instead, 1 season later, it looks fragile. So I want you thinking about this as we go. If your biggest bargaining chip is attention, what happens when attention drops? Because Unrivaled wasn't just created as a fun side project. On paper, it was supposed to be leverage. It was supposed to be the safety net for players in contract talks. The pitch was simple. We're not trapped. We have an alternative. We can earn money elsewhere. We can keep our profile elsewhere. Therefore, when we walk into negotiations, we're doing it with options.
This isn't the woke media that I know to be completely useless. This isn't the media that has a long history of polishing the turd. This is unprecedented. The media is actually telling us the truth. Last year, They were trying to convince us that Unrivaled was taking over the world. Have you seen these ratings? I haven't seen ratings this high since Beavis claimed he gets nothing but head. Whoopee!
But here's the brutal truth about leverage that nobody can escape. A threat only works if the other side believes you can actually use it. If the league believes you can walk away and still get paid and still stay relevant, they negotiate differently. They compromise faster. They take your demands seriously. But if the alternative product looks shaky, the threat stops being scary. It starts being a bluff the room can smell. And that's why the audience number matters beyond a single broadcast. Because it's not just people watched less. It's the safety net might not be a safety net. Now connect that straight to the WNBA contract showdown. For months, the loudest message from players was confidence. Stand firm, hold the line. If we have to, we strike. And whether you agree with that or not, the strategy is clear. Pressure the league by proving you're willing to shut the machine down. But then something changes. You start hearing a very different tone. The possibility of playing under the old agreement while negotiations drag. The same deal that was being called unacceptable. The same structure that was being used as proof the system is broken. If you're watching and thinking, wait, how do you go from we're holding the line to we'll play under the old deal so fast? You're asking the right question. Because playing under the old deal isn't a flex. It's a holding pattern. In plain English, it means the current pay structure stays in place for now, and everyone keeps working while both sides keep arguing behind the scenes. And yes, it keeps checks coming, but it also keeps the uncertainty alive. It creates a season where everyone knows the tension is still there. Either side can escalate. Either side can hardball. Fans get whiplash. Sponsors get cautious. So why would players even consider it? Because as cold as it sounds, bills do not pause for negotiations. Careers are short. Off seasons are short. And if your alternative league is not proving it can reliably replace the main paycheck, your negotiating posture changes. It has to. Now here's the part that sounds like boring accounting, but it's actually the entire war: revenue share. You've probably heard a version of this argument. Players want a bigger piece of the pie. The league points to costs and says the pie is smaller than it looks. And the sticking point a lot of people focus on is whether the split is calculated on gross revenue or net revenue. Gross is the total before expenses. Net is what's left after expenses. And that difference is not a minor technicality. It decides whether the league can say, we're paying you out of profits, or whether the league is obligated to pay you even when costs spike and profits disappear. Therefore, when fans hear numbers being floated like a big share of net versus a big share of gross, that is not a small disagreement. That's the whole fight. Now layer the ratings drop on top of that. Because the moment you say, we deserve more, the next question becomes, how are you going to generate it? And when a major partner looks at a season opener pulling around 100,000 viewers, it becomes harder to argue that the market has already expanded enough to support massive jumps. This is why people keep bringing up Paige Beckers in this conversation. Not because Paige is a bad player. That's not the point. The point is the way she's being positioned. She's marketed like the next automatic audience magnet, the next era, the next guarantee. And if you're telling fans this is the future, but the future launches and the audience doesn't follow, that tells you the hype is not converting yet. And you can feel that tension in the money talk. The transcript this video is based on throws out a reported pay figure for Paige in Unrivaled, around $348,000. If that's even close, you can see the business question instantly. A new league paying serious money while still fighting for mainstream attention is a risky model. That's not a moral judgment, that's basic maths. Now zoom out even further. The WNBA has had something most startup leagues don't: staying power, relationships, infrastructure, and yes, long-term support from the broader basketball ecosystem. Owners have been willing to invest because they believed the long-term story. Growth is coming. The audience is building. This is going to scale. But patience isn't infinite. If spin-off leagues and alternative products can't stand on their own, that story gets harder to sell in boardrooms. And that is exactly why Unrivaled's audience decline becomes more than a ratings topic. It becomes a negotiation topic. Because now the league can look at the situation and think, if the alternative can't prove demand, where exactly is the outside pressure coming from? And if the outside pressure is weak, the strike threat feels less scary. This is where the Caitlin Clark effect argument comes in. The harsh version is, without the biggest draw, everything collapses back to the baseline. I'll say it more carefully. One generational talent can lift attention across an entire ecosystem, but that doesn't automatically mean the rest of the ecosystem can stand on its own yet. And if the union built its confidence on the idea that the whole market permanently moved up, a drop like this feels like a trapdoor opening. So what happens next? I see two doors. Door one is the quiet compromise. Players accept something close to the current structure in the short term, maybe with incremental improvements, just to keep the season stable and keep money flowing. It's not exciting. It doesn't create viral headlines, but it protects momentum and protects the product from chaos. Door two is the hard line. Players hold the line, the league holds the line, and you risk missed games, ugly blame campaigns, and a mess that damages the product for everybody. And the worst part is, if the audience is already fragile, chaos doesn't help you grow it. So let me ask you directly, if you're a player, do you take a short-term deal that looks like the old agreement so you can keep momentum alive and fight smarter over time? Or do you push for a hard reset and risk the entire season turning into a staring contest? Comment below. Take the old deal or hold the line. And if you're still watching, drop OLDCBA in the comments.
If you were an opposing coach game planning to stop Caitlin Clark, what would you do?
Pray.
Wow! You bet! From beyond the logo! And a little point afterwards! She knows how to spark the crowd.
They're all the same fight, because right now, the WNBA isn't just basketball, it's attention. And Caitlin Clark is the center of that attention, whether the league likes it or not. So I'm going to run through the biggest narratives exploding online, one by one, and connect the dots. You'll see why this isn't random drama. It's a power struggle. Headline number one, and this is the one that keeps coming back in different forms. Team USA didn't want Caitlin Clark on the Olympic stage. Now, people online exaggerate this as banned or blacklisted, but the emotional point is the same. Fans look at Caitlin and think, that's the face of women's basketball. So when she's not on the biggest roster, the public doesn't treat it like a normal basketball decision. They treat it like politics. And the problem with that is simple. Once fans decide it's politics, every coach, every executive, and every person involved becomes a target. Therefore, the internet doesn't ask, was it the right roster? They ask, who blocked her? And once that question starts trending, everything gets messy. You get sources, you get inside reports, you get tense meetings. You even get people claiming decision makers are losing their jobs over it. Some of that is real pressure, but some of it is just the internet trying to build a villain. But either way, it turns Team USA into a symbol, not a basketball team. A symbol of who the sport wants to protect. And if you're Caitlin Clark, that means every big decision becomes a referendum on you. Headline number two, Angel Reese got overlooked again, and fans are furious. That's the pattern, even when the exact details change. Because Angel lives under a microscope too. But it's a different microscope than Caitlin's. Caitlin gets judged like a savior. Angel gets judged like a provocation. So when Angel doesn't get a nod, whether it's a roster conversation, a media push, or a major honor, it becomes instant outrage. And here's why. People don't just debate Angel Reese as a player, they debate what she represents. Therefore, every headline turns into a moral argument, not a basketball argument. One side says she's disrespected, the other side says she's overrated, and the league gets caught in the middle because the league wants attention. But the attention it's getting is pure conflict. And the craziest part is this. The internet doesn't even need a real incident to keep the feud alive. It just needs a new angle. Because Caitlyn versus Angel is the easiest story engine in women's sports. Different characters, same machine. But the machine doesn't care who wins. It just needs you to pick a side. Headline number 3. Paige Beckers is getting pushed as the next Caitlyn. And it's backfiring. This is a huge reason the discourse has gotten so toxic. Paige is a star, a real one. She's skilled. She's marketable. She has the story. But the moment people start forcing her into a Caitlyn comparison, the internet turns it into a fight. Instead of letting Paige be Paige, they turn it into, is she better? Is she more polished? Is she the real deal or hype? But that's not fair to Paige, and it's not even about Paige. It's about the audience craving another face of the league. And Caitlyn broke the system. She didn't just bring fans. She brought new fans who don't care about tradition. They care about impact. They care about moments. They care about highlights that feel like NBA energy. Therefore, anyone mentioned near Caitlyn gets pulled into a ranking war. And that's how you end up with ridiculous labels like fraud or hoax floating around. Not because there's some secret scandal, but because comparison content is fast, easy, and viral. But it damages the sport long term because it teaches casual viewers one thing. Women's basketball only matters if it's a feud. Headline number 4. Nike just made it clear who they're betting on. This is the quiet part that changes everything. Because brands don't spend millions for fun. Brands pick winners. And Nike doesn't sell shoes. Nike sells legacy. So when Caitlyn gets a major campaign, the message isn't subtle. The message is, this is the athlete we're building around. And the hidden meaning people talk about in ads usually isn't a secret symbol. It's how they frame her. They don't frame her like a rookie. They frame her like a movement. They don't show her fitting in. They show the game adjusting to her. Therefore, every time a brand pushes Caitlyn harder, it creates a tension inside the league. Because now it's not just WNBA fans watching. It's casual sports fans. It's NBA fans. It's young athletes who never watched a WNBA game before. And once those people enter the room, the old gatekeeping starts to crack. But the league has to decide what it wants. Does it want growth or does it want control? Headline number 5. The Fever locker room looks different now, and you can feel it. This is where names like Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull start trending next to Caitlyn. Not because they're chasing attention, but because the audience is craving one thing: protection. Fans don't just want Caitlyn to hit threes. They want her to stop getting hit. They want to see the Fever push back. They want to feel like the team is done being polite. And that's why insider clips go viral. A hard foul, a teammate stepping in, a post-game comment that sounds just angry enough. A moment where the camera catches a stare. That's all it takes. Because to the public, that reads like, oh, something is happening behind the scenes. Therefore, the story becomes bigger than basketball. It becomes, is the league targeting her? Are refs letting it happen? Are her teammates fed up? And when that narrative takes over, the league loses control of the messaging. Creators control it, and creators will always push it further than the truth, because the truth is slower. Drama is faster. Headline number 6. Off-season leagues are becoming leverage, and it's freaking people out. This is what all the talk about unrivaled and side leagues really means. It's not the WNBA is dying. It's leverage. Players want options. Sponsors want stability. Fans want the biggest stars in one place. But once new leagues enter the conversation, it creates uncertainty. And uncertainty spreads like wildfire because it threatens the one thing the WNBA needs most right now: momentum. because the Caitlin Clark era is bringing new viewers in. But if those viewers feel like everything is chaotic, politics, jealousy, messy narratives, constant feuds, they won't stay. They'll leave, and they'll take the boom with them. Now step back and connect all 6 stories. Team USA drama shows who gets protected. Angel Reese drama shows how identity gets weaponized. Page comparisons show the internet's obsession with the next Caitlyn. Nike campaigns show the money has already picked a side. Fever tension shows the league is getting more physical and emotional. And side league chatter shows the power structure is shifting. Therefore, here's the real question. Is the WNBA going to treat Caitlin Clark like a foundation or like a resource to strip mine? Because a lot of people love saying, Caitlin will save the league. But at the same time, they act like they want to humble her. They want her to earn it. They want to punish the hype. They want to control the narrative. But you can't do both. You can't ask her to carry the league and also let the league chew her up. And the scary part is this. It only takes one more moment, one more roster controversy, one more clip that looks like targeting, one more brand move that feels like a power play for everything to tilt. Therefore, watch what happens next, because the next big story won't be about a highlight. It'll be about whether the league finally admits what this era really is, a basketball boom or a civil war.